Greetings, Whiskey Hill Slayers. This is Whiskey Whistle, and I'm your host, Mark. This is Whiskey Review number 72, and today we're going to be looking at the BenRiach 12-year-old Sherry Wood. Now, this is not a finish. This has been matured fully in 12 years in sherry. Two types of sherry, in fact. One is Oloroso, and the second is Pedro Jimenez. These are both varieties of sherry, which I have never tried. In fact, I've never tried sherry, to be honest. I should, and I will. However, I just have not yet. I am a port fan of long ago, and well, it's another type of fortified wine. So now, apparently these were done in butts. A butt is a very large type of a cask or barrel, if that's the language you normally use. A lot of Americans refer to them as barrels. So very large barrel, I believe containing about 600 liters. That's what a butt is. And so being from the Jerez region in Spain, and well, since these are Spanish wood, in fact, I believe it's all European wood. So that's quite interesting. So that's this one right here. This is the 12-year-old from the BenRiach, aged 12 years, sherry wood matured. Matured, again, rather than finished. There are a lot of sherry finished whiskeys out there. Okay, now this one is 46%. It is unchill filtered and definitely natural color. And if you look at the bottle there, it's really not that dark. And one reason could be simply the size of that barrel, that cask, the butt. The butts are very large, and so there's a little bit less interaction with the wood than a smaller cask would have. Let's get that poured, shall we? Now, this is the second in the BenRiach whiskey series that I'll be presenting, for about half of that, a little more than half, about 30 milliliters there perhaps. And this little set is a gift that I received for attending the BenRiach Single Malt Scotch Whisky official tasting here in Seoul, Korea. That's where I live. And so how fantastic for me. That was a big help. This was at the malt shop in Gangnam. So if you're in Korea and you're wanting to get yourself some very nice, very special single malt Scotch whiskeys, why don't you head there? Okay. Oh, and there's also a video that I've recorded of how to get there, so there's no excuses. Okay, so color-wise, now again, this is that sort of tarnished gold or antique gold sort of a shade. Natural color, so that's great. Unchill filtered. Very potent. And as I said in the previous review, I didn't really take any notes because I've spent most of my time recording. So even though I've tried these before, you know, if you don't write it down, you're not going to remember. You might remember a little bit, but you will not remember finer details. Well, let's get right into the nose, shall we? And before that, there will be a short advertisement right there. Thank you for watching and welcome back. So, the nose for the BenRiach 12-year-old sherry wood matured. Let's give it a try. Whew, very potent. So this is what happens. Sometimes the alcohol really kicks you, but you just have to persevere and go back in there. Smell a little bit less the next time, until you get the right amount where you can smell what's going on there. And And oh yes, this is sherry matured. It's very different though. I want to say this is probably a drier, maybe slightly more on the sweet and sour end of sherry than what you would find in other brands who are using a lot of American oak, even though it's supposedly sherry matured. Yes, this needs a bit of time, so we'll keep rolling that for a little while. I'm very, very excited about this brand, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in the future, because they're at the onset of acquisition by Brown-Forman, the makers of Jack Daniels. So they're getting 3 single malt Scotch whiskey brands, and probably at the right time too. I wouldn't say that the emphasis has moved away from Scotch whiskey, but Irish whiskey and also bourbon are really, really posting big numbers as far as increases in profits, increases in sales. Whereas Scotch whiskey has sort of reached a peak, although it's really carrying on. So not so much of a decline, but more of a plateau, let's say. And that's natural. There's no possible way for any one spirit to remain top year on year on year. I mean, vodka did it, but I think maybe whiskey has outsold vodka now. Okay, let's give that a good honest smell here now. Very spicy. Yeah, it's like opening up a bag of raisins and sticking your nose in it. And then having a bag of malted barley right next to it to stick your nose in as well. And then around you, you've got a bit of mint, a little bit of Italian spices, and cinnamon is nearby. This is what you're smelling. It's what I'm smelling, not you. Okay. Anything else to say? Well, we'll come back to the nose in a minute. Let's give it a taste now. Cheers to Mr. Stuart Buchanan, the Global Brand Ambassador. Thank you very much for coming to Seoul, for coming to the Malt Shop, and for the great event that you hosted. And cheers to all of you. Is that ever juicy? Big dark fruits. Not just raisins, but plums, cherries, the dried ones. It's also very jammy and a little bit effervescent. And I've mentioned this before. So it seems to have a little bit of a life. It seems to be alive on your tongue. Let's go back in there. got very good tannins. A little bit of nuttiness in there. Touch of walnut. And a tropical nut too, like a Brazil nut. Let's try that one more time. This has just a killer balance of sweet, sour, bitter in the right balance, in the right amounts. Now that is Mr. Billy Walker's handiwork, and what handiwork it is. Finish wise, not that long, but the fruit carries through. Some good spices there. A little bit of vanilla. Vanilla is more often associated with American oak, but no doubt oak all over the world contains a little bit of vanilla. Let's add a touch of water in there, not too much. Now the blending of this whiskey, the 12-year-old sherry wood matured, I believe a lot of this has been the handiwork of Mr. Stuart Buchanan himself before he has taken his new role as the global brand ambassador. And what he said was he tends not to add water to whiskey because he made it the way it should be. So I may have disrupted the balance in some way, but again, for curiosity's sake, you want to know what will change, what will get different, what will stay the same. Well, right off the bat, it's a little bit drier on the nose. And the European oak, very different from American oak. It's actually quite more complex. Many more savory notes as well. Okay, we'll taste that with water, and before we do so, one more ad will appear right here. Thanks for coming back. Let's try that one more time now. This time we'll taste it with water. This is the BenRiach 12-year-old sherry wood matured. It's a little bit more buttery. And that effervescence has really come even more alive. And the same set of dried fruits as in the neat version. There is some dark chocolate, a little bit of milk chocolate with raisins in it. Maybe a hint of a coffee-ish sort of flavor there as well. The fruitier side of coffees. Mm. The finish is a bit drier, and you've still got this mix of dried fruits going on. A little bit of spice to carry it out. I wonder if the finish is slightly longer with water. I'd have to try this many more times to decide. Neat, fantastic with water, a little different, a little interesting. Again, I think don't put too much in there though. Anyway, so the BenRiach 12-year-old Sherry Wood Matured, the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for this one, that's this one right here, is going to be 89 out of 100. 89 points out of 100, that is the WhiskyWhistle score for the BenRiach 12-year-old Sherry Wood Matured from Speyside. Okay, now if you have not subscribed, why not do so? You just click the link right over there in the corner where you see my little image. Give it a click and you will be subscribed. And you'll keep abreast of all of the whiskey whistlings that come on here. Many more to come, lots of more interesting things. And there will be more, let's call that, alternative content, whiskey tastings. Perhaps something that'll come out that'll be a little bit different than you've seen before. That'll be yet to come. Okay. Anyway, we'll set that aside and I will say so long to you. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Goodbye.